Hey Jay, as you wrap up another spring camp, what are your, if you have any, what are your concerns with this defense, and what are your maybe things that might keep you up at night in the next 4 months?
Um, Depth at the D tackle group. There's three or four of them that I really like. It's the group past there if you had a bunch of injuries. And then right now, the inexperience of the corner group, although I think they're pretty talented, they're just not a lot of game reps there.
And then I wanted to ask you specifically about the linebackers. I know you got the 3 or 4 really experienced guys, but heaven forbid you had an injury. How do you feel about kind of the depth there?
Really good. That's one of the deepest groups right now. We got really good battles going on. Obviously there's Jack Kelly and Glasgow, but Harrison Taggart and Cialia Sarah are both 1 and 1A at middle linebacker. Those guys will both play a lot. Ace Kafusi's played outstanding. Che Strother Bryant has shown really good things. I've liked a lot of the other guys too. I mean, Micah Kafusi made huge strides forward this spring. Miles Miles has done some good things, Miles Hall. So anyway, bottom line, there's a deep group there that I feel good about. We're adding a couple guys still. And then there's some really good young freshmen that we just got in the group. So I like that group a lot.
You brought up D tackle and cornerback, Jay. Will you look for maybe some late ads in the spring portal window to bolster those groups?
If we got a shot at the right guy that we think could make a difference potentially. Um, you guys know I don't love living in the portal unless I know everything about them. So it was easy with those couple Weber State guys because I knew everything about those guys and they all panned out and have been great players. But I don't love going outside on guys I don't know everything about.
Can philosophy still? Do you feel like that can still work? Because I'm sure there's a lot of power conference programs that are just leaning heavily into the portal. Can it still be a place where you can get guys as a high school prospect and develop and keep them for 4 years? Can that still work in today's college football?
Has to work. I believe. Like if you're recruiting the right kids and you have the right system in place to develop them, and those players want to stick around because what you're providing them, I think that has to work still. And I know there's a lot of great programs out there that are doing the same thing. Um, the portal, you can find some really good fixes sometimes, but that's not the end all. And I think the teams that live in there and have to do too many players in there, the dilemma you have is you have to do it again the next year and the next year and the next year. Like you go in the portal and take a bunch of seniors because they're veteran, you're gonna have to do it again the next year. And I think we're better off, using as a filler. There's gonna be certain spots that we have to fill and have to look portal, and then there's gonna be most of the times where we can recruit young and develop.
Thanks. We'll take our next questions from Jared Lloyd and then Sean Walker.
Jay, who really stood out in spring and maybe exceeded your expectations? I know you have a lot of expectations for a lot of the guys, but I wonder if there were any guys that really kind of exceeded those that come to mind.
Jonathan Cabella, and again, exceeded, I don't know. I love the way he played. Um, he was one that for sure stood out to me. Um, yeah, I mean, JT did some great things up front, inside. Josh Singh, I thought had a really productive spring. I like the overall talent of that defensive end group, but they're young. But there's some really good players in that defensive end group. So, like Ephraim Asiata today, he looked like an absolute stud. So, if he can play like he looked today, he would be one that I would bring up. So, yeah, it's probably unfair to answer that with too many names, just because there could be 20 that I could list.
Well, and I know that's often the case, and that's what you want as a coach. I was just curious who kind of had stood out. I also wanted to ask if there were any moments here during these last few weeks where it was like everything was clicking and you're like, this is really showing what we can be this fall.
Well, I can tell you this, last Friday's scrimmage was not good. We showed up with not a great mindset, too many mistakes, not tough enough, not understanding the tempo of the drills where one drill would be live and the next one would be thud, and not understanding that. And I got after him pretty good. And then I thought Monday and today were exactly what you're talking about. Is I'm sitting on the sideline thinking this is pretty sweet. This is really good. And I saw leadership, I saw toughness, I saw discipline, I saw execution. It felt a little bit this week like the bowl game against Colorado. So that was very good to see. Monday and Fridays, today's practice were very good.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, Coach, you touched on this a little bit, obviously, with the portal, because I know that's obviously a thing coming up that's probably kind of monopolizing a lot of your time, and recruiting never really stops. But for the players, I know spring isn't like the end. They don't just, Kalani just really said, they don't go and put their feet up. They still have workouts and PRPs and that kind of thing. What do the next couple weeks or even couple months look like for you guys? Is it just back out on the recruiting trail, or are you planning a trip with your wife to Hawaii first, or just what do the next couple of weeks, I guess, kind of look like?
Getting personal with me, huh? Okay, so we'll take a couple days.
Unless you're trying to surprise Sarah, then don't
Yeah.
spoil the surprise right now.
Yeah. So we'll take a couple days next week and just catch our breath. Our kids have spring break and we might spend a couple days, just being with them. We get so busy through recruiting and bowl season and all that other stuff, and then right into spring practices that, it's good to have some time with them. And then right after that, the following week, we do our exit interviews with our current players here at BYU. And then the following week, we're on the road spring recruiting, which is where we'll be for the next 5 or 6 weeks after that. And then we come back and we're in camps, like youth camps, high school camps, passing leagues, all that stuff in June. And then in July is our most mellow month for us to catch our breath and be ready for fall camp.
All right, we'll take our next questions from Jay Drew and then Mitch Harper.
Yeah, Jay, as far as Jack Kelly deciding to come back, was there much discussion on that? Did he consult you? Because obviously you have the relationship from Weber State, or was it just a given that he was going to come back?
No, Jack Kelly was projected an early linebacker taken in the draft, and he had a lot of people in his ear, especially, I think it was game 3 or 4, one of the projections came out and he was super highly touted. And it continued that way. I think our relationship was important to him, and it was important to me that we could have a conversation. But Jack came back because I think he feels it's the best thing he can do. One more year playing inside linebacker, I think he can be one of the top linebackers in the country for sure. And so it's good for BYU that he came back. It's good for me selfishly that he came back, and I think it's good for him. And there was a lot of conversations that went into that.
And then on this roster limitations that are coming, are you guys, and maybe you haven't decided this yet, but are you guys kind of parceling it out by saying, okay, we're going to keep 10 offensive linemen, we're going to keep 12 defensive linemen by position? Is it going to be that granular?
Yes, it has to be. Yeah. So, for example, I'm looking at 8 or 9 safeties, and there's fluidity. There's some flexibility there. But we're probably at 13 linebackers and 7 or 8 defensive ends and 7 or 8 defensive tackles and 8 or 9 safeties, and corners are probably 10 or 11. And so there's a little bit of flexibility there, but you have to have a bottom number where you have to have certain amounts so that you can survive a season.
And just to kind of follow up on that, Jay, how important was the film that players put out during spring in determining maybe that last 10, 15, whatever number, to determine who's going to make that 105 for week 1.
Yeah, it's everything. We try to be super objective with that, and we want to put criteria on who comes back and who doesn't. We want to be super fair. And fans and players have to know, like, we love these young men. We love what they give us. They give it their all, and the last thing we want to do is cut anybody. But it's a bottom line business. It's reality. The players understand that. We understand that it's not what we love, but eventually, if the NCAA says we have to get to 105, we got to do what we got to do.
And then just wanted to ask you, your name was linked in the coaching carousel a little bit for some potential jobs, but you're back at BYU for your 3rd season. What are you enjoying about working with Kalani and being at BYU, and what keeps you motivated to keep doing your job here at BYU?
Well, I get to work for the best head coach. I mean, he's amazing. He allows me on defense to do what I want to do. He's amazing, and I get to work next to Aaron Roderick, who I have so much respect for, and I think he's one of the best play callers in the game and does a phenomenal job organizing the offense. Those things were super important to me. I love the administration here at BYU, and I love what the school stands for. So they've taken great care of me and my family, and just the atmospheres at the games, how the fans are, the way everybody's been since I've been here. We're happy and content. And I'm not one of those guys always just looking to leave and to bounce. If it's a good thing for me and my family, and it's a good thing for the university, I'm not looking to go just to go.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jay. Appreciate you taking the time to be here.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. See ya.
In a little bit.